Hey yo, it's me, Brooklyn. Hi. Sorry, I didn't get to like change into any formal gear, but today is Monday, July 18th, and let's see real quick. Today we have a guest. Our guest today is Brothers Brandon, and he will be joining us shortly. Hey, Chucky. Thanks for tuning in. And hold on here. Just trying to get some setup going. Pretty excited for today. Hey, Michael. Good to see you on. And I'm in my basement and it's freezing. This is where I have my office. And it's so cold, so I have to have my little blanket with me. But it's good. Hey, Tawny. Hope you're doing good. Yesterday was my little sister Tawny's, not yesterday. What's today? Yeah, the 18th, 17th, Saturday. Saturday was Tawny's birthday. She's an old lady now. Just kidding. All right, let's bring our guest on and get the party started today. So. Ready. Hey,
Hello.
we did it. All right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. How are you doing?
All right.
All right, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I call it Magical Mondays.
Of course. Magical instead of manic, right? Keep it positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, the sun's shining and I'm alive.
Right.
Am I like breaking up
No,
or is it like clear?
you're good. I don't know what was happening like a few weeks ago, but I had like something's in my eye. Some Facebook lives and they were like cracking up. I don't know what was going on, but I haven't experienced that. Last week was fine. Fingers crossed today is fine. So usually, let me see here who hopped on. I like to say hello to Anna. Thank you for joining, Anna, and Jackie Brownotter. How are you doing? And today we have Brothers Brandon, and he is going to share his story with us. Usually, I think for all of our regular viewers, I like to always add that discretionary that sometimes during these sessions or these videos, we talk about things that can be triggering, right? There's a lot of stuff, that happens through people's journeys, and want to just make sure that people know that it's okay to leave. You don't have to stay on, or if you're having a hard time, after hearing somebody's story, please feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to our past guests. I'm sure today's guests would be open if somebody reached out to you just to ask for some guidance. How would you feel about that?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, you can ask me anything.
Okay, cool. And then before we get started, I always like to say a prayer. I usually go with whoever's the oldest. I don't know how old you are. I'm 37, but I'll start up.
I'll be 40. I'll be 40 next month.
Okay, well, does our guest want to say opening just something, or you want me to do it?
Yeah, I can say a prayer.
All right, yeah, that's good. All right.
All right. God, Creator, thank you for waking us up today. Thank you for waking us up sober. We are very grateful for the life and our children and our good health. And we ask you just to bless this episode and to let you, the Great Spirit, speak through us so it can reach other people's lives and it can spread the great message of happiness. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we can get started. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm not sure if you have other things going on. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself, where you're from, and then I'll just let you take the mic and you can take it from there. I always tell people that they can go back as far as they want and as much detail as they want. Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
All right.
Well, my name is Brother Brandon. I'm from the West Bank of New Orleans. I live here in Bismarck. I've been living here since the end of 2015, the beginning of 2016. I was born to a young mother, and I was born into a party. I didn't have a father, and drinking and drugs were like a normal thing in the New Orleans area. And so I think the first time I ever drank alcohol, I probably was like around 5 or 6 years old. My grandfather, he used to have a keg of Miller Lite in his wall in his kitchen, and he had little frozen mugs. And so when he would have seafood boils and cookouts, he thought it was funny to let me drink beer with him and let dance around and stuff like that. And then I had one of those uncles, those cool uncles that everybody's got, that always did drugs and alcohol, and he would let me do it with him, you know? And so I wanted to be like him. So he was my role model. So I started smoking cigarettes when I was about 9 years old. I used to steal them out my mom's purse when she was sleeping. Benson and Hedges menthols, 100s. And so I started smoking, and probably like around age 12, I started smoking weed and taking pills. So pills were very, I don't know, pills were very plentiful growing up around where I grew up at. It just seemed that you never had to go look for anything. It was always there. And I found that when I smoked weed and took pills, it made me calm. It made me not be hyper. I was a hyper kid. I talked a lot. And so it made me where I could just kind of chill, and it gave me like a fuzzy feeling. And so when I got into high school, I started finding lots of pills. So they used to have, I don't know if you ever watched this, it's a special on Netflix called The Pharmacist. So if you're ever looking for something to watch, go on Netflix, and it's like 4 episodes, and it's about this pharmacist in the New Orleans area that his son got killed in a drug deal going bad. And what he did was he started his own revolution against the pharmaceutical companies and the pill mills. So what we had was pain management clinics all over the city, and you can get 100 Vicodins, 100 Xanax, 100 Somas, and by the end of the day, if you do this 10 times, 20 times, you got a nice stockpile of pills on your hands.
Is it kind of lagging a little bit? I don't know. How is it on everybody else's end? Is it
Can you
lagging?
hear me? I'm back.
Okay. Is it lagging on my end?
No, it's my end. I turned the internet off, so now I'm just on.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying something different.
Okay.
It was like freezing up or something. So yeah, we had lots and lots of pills that were available at a young age. So I had some friends that died when I was growing up from taking different types of pills. Like they would take like pain pills, Xanax and Somas and all kind of stuff, a whole handful, and wouldn't wake up. Mm. And so I got to see a lot of people die at a young age. And so I did that. I always took pain pills. It was just something. I never did heroin. I I never tried heroin when I was growing up until I got older. That was just something that was like people that did heroin back then, they always had like a demon in them. And so I just never, it was just like a no-no. But eventually I did try heroin. But so I started taking ecstasy at about 15 and snorting cocaine. And then I got lucky. This girl I was dating, she got me to join the military, and my family was telling me the same thing. So I joined the military at 17 and I left New Orleans. And so at this time, I was in my mind, I was like, I'm never going to do drugs again. But then my drinking career started. And so in the military, we drink like it's a sport, you know. I got stationed in the United Kingdom for 2 years. Oh, wow. And you can drink at age 18. And that's all we did. We worked, we drank, and we went to clubs, and we slept around, and that was our life, you know. And at that time, it was really fun. And so one thing that I started to see was people getting in trouble for like DUIs, people getting in car crashes, getting in fights. But it never occurred to me that maybe I should stop drinking. So it was just the way that I learned how to cope with stress. But my addiction was still there the whole time, because when I found out that if you sign up to get your wisdom teeth pulled out, they give you a script of pain pills and you get 4 days off of work. I was like, sign me up. I didn't even care if my teeth were hurting or not. I just wanted the pain pills because it just gave me energy. It just seemed like any drug that I put into my system, it gave me energy, and it just did something inside of me. So I always had that. Like if I was to go to somebody's house and I look in their medicine cabinet and I seen they had pills, I'm going to take them some of them. It was just, that was just normal to me. Like, and so I stood in the military for 7 years. I went to Iraq. And every time I had the opportunity to drink, I drank. And then when I came back from Iraq, I started going back into my old ways that I knew how to cope with stuff. I didn't know how to go to therapy or anything like that. All I knew how to do was go to clubs and take pills and drink, and that's what made me feel better. So eventually I failed the drug test and I got kicked out the military after 7 years, and I moved back to New Orleans. And in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a phrase in there. It says we withdraw from society, and they greeted us with open arms, you know. And that's what happened to me when I went back to New Orleans. It was like Bourbon Street greeted me with open arms. It was like, come on, come be some losers with us, you know. And so that's what I did. I lived a double life. And they say anything with two heads is a monster. And that's what I was. I was a monster, you know. I would keep a job during the day, and then I would turn into this crazy person at night and just run in the city, you know. And so I fell in love. With a stripper, and then toxic relationships is what we attract to, you know. And we feel like that's what's normal because we're already toxic. And so I did that, I think, for 5 years, 6 years, and I did drugs the whole time, you know. And I would snort cocaine in the bathroom. I would take ecstasy. I would always take pain pills, you know. And then I started snorting pills. So that's when like the oxycodone 30 started coming around, and before the fentanyl. And I used to crush them and snort them. And but I would never like get sick. Like I've seen people like do them and then do opiates and then they get sick and they can't like go outside and stuff like that. For some reason I never got sick. I don't know. I just did them, and then when I didn't have them, I didn't have them. But I remember one night I I rented a convertible and I was driving around town and I had like a pocket full of those pills and I was snorting them and I snorted so many of them that I went blind for a day. And like I couldn't see the drive, so I had to like park the car and call somebody to come get me. And so that was with that situation. I was like, man, I can't be doing that many of those, like I couldn't even see. And so, but it never occurred to me that, hey, maybe I shouldn't do none of that at all. So I remember one time I got into a fender bender, but I didn't get hurt, but it was like they sent me to the pain doctor, and I kept going to get the pills, but I would take them all in like a day, and so to me that was normal, that was normal because it was just like it make a good day. I feel good. We're gonna go have fun and everything. But I started working offshore in the Gulf of Mexico on oil platforms, and what would happen was I would go out there for 3 weeks. You catch a helicopter and y'all in the middle of the ocean. And when I would run out of drugs, I started to feel depressed. Because I was coming down. I was suffering from PTSD, and I just started feeling depressed, and I hated my life. And then when I would finally get back on land, I would go straight to the liquor store, and then I would go to the drug dealer, and it was just like a vicious cycle that I kept doing and kept doing. So I started snorting heroin when it was available. I started doing meth. I started doing meth really when I got to North Dakota. And I like to say it's like alcohol is a depressant, and most people do drugs and stuff because they're depressed. But when you do meth, it makes a big old mess because now you didn't speed it up your depression. Now I'm running around depressed, causing all kind of chaos. And so I originally wanted to come up here because I heard about the job in Beulah, North Dakota, and it was like a bunch of money. And then I was like, it's a geographical change. I'll come up here and, a different scenery. And it doesn't take long for a fully blown addict or alcoholic to find his people. You know what I mean? I can spot out. That's who I find first. I find the underworld. I find the people that's up to no good. It just seems like that's who I always felt comfortable around. And I shouldn't feel like that because normal people they try to stay away from people like that. They want to be around people that's living right. And so I get to Beulah, North Dakota, and we start working at the gas plant, me and some buddies of mine. And then we start coming to Bismarck on the weekends. So we're drinking, I'm trying to find drugs. Once I start drinking, now I'm trying to find whatever somebody's got. And so I met this girl, and I always like to say I got lucky at Lucky's and booty at Bucks. And so I got a girl pregnant, and I moved in Mandan with her and all her kids in the back of the trailer park, and it was a toxic relationship, and so I couldn't handle it. So what do? I go to the local bars more, and I start drinking. And Brother Brandon, once he gets alcohol in him, now he wants drugs, and so I start talking to people, man, y'all don't have no pills, y'all don't have this, y'all don't have. They were like, no, we got this meth though. And so I start using meth. And I always like to say there's a substance, they should have a warning on every meth bag, a Surgeon General warning. You will become homeless, and real fast too. And so I started using meth, losing jobs left and right, sleeping in my car. I'm going to jail. The girl I got pregnant, she's putting restraining orders on me. I'm kicking her door down. The cops will find me hiding in the attic, just crazy stuff. And And so that was like back and forth. I'm living in Ruth Myers homeless shelter. I get admitted to the crazy ward for 3 days. That was crazy because um, my son's mom, she locked me out the house in the cold and she wouldn't let me in because I was out of my mind on meth. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sleeping in the car, and then finally I fell asleep and woke up, and then I went and knocked on the door. It was during the day, and she opened the door finally and she sprayed me with mace. And so I'm not thinking that you're not supposed to put water on mace. You're supposed to use milk. So I run and stick my head in the snow. And now the mace done spread from my eyes to my ears in the middle of winter. And so now I really look crazy. I'm all here. And so I wound up going to the hospital, and they put me in the crazy ward to go to sleep for 3 days. And then I finally fell asleep for like a day. And then when I woke up, it was like some real crazy people around me. It was like, you want to come color with us? And I'm like, man, I need to get my life together. And so I get out, and then I always had this thing where I'm always running into these people that got all these drugs. So I go to the bar, and I meet this guy. He's got all these drugs. He gives me all these drugs. And now life's it's just getting worse. And so me and him, we go to Fargo with this girl, and the girl dies. So I was asleep. I woke up in the hotel. The girl did whippets, and her lungs froze, and she died. So I started doing CPR on her, and her last breath of her lungs collapsed and went in my mouth. So it's a downward spiral at this point in my life. I mean, everything that could go wrong is going wrong. I come back, the car that I had, I was so scared that I never even went and got it. I left it. It was parked in front of her parents' house. So I just left it there. I was like, man, I ain't going back over there. We left with their child, and, we left with the girl, and she didn't come back, and so I didn't even go back over there. And then I get evicted. I had a little apartment in the alley behind the Lewis and Clark. I get evicted from there. So then I leave there and I go to M&H gas station, and I steal a hot dog, a Reese's cup, a fountain drink, and then I go to Captain Jack's and steal some little shooters, and I get caught stealing. And so it came out to like $6 or something worth of stuff from the gas station. Then they gave me like a $300 fine. Even the judge was like, what the hell's wrong with you? And so my mind, I'm like, man, I need to get out of Mandan. So I crossed the bridge to Bismarck. So now I don't have a car. I don't have nowhere to live. I got warrants. My probation office looking for me. This girl done died. All kind of stuff's going crazy. But it never occurred to me that I need to get sober. If I get sober, that maybe my life will start to change some. But all I was trying to do was survive a day, without something crazy happening. I was just so depressed. I remember when I first started using and drinking when I was a youngster, I used to wake up laughing, like, man, we did this last night. Remember we was playing Truth or Dare? So-and-so gave me their car. It was just always this funny stuff. But at the end, I would wake up crying. I mean, I would wake up like literally sick from depression, crying because my life was so miserable and it was so much pain. So one night I'm trying to stay warm. This was so the holidays of 2017 was the worst holidays of my life. And the beginning of 2018, January, was like -50, -40. So there's on the movie Uncle Scrooge, there's parts like where he sees like people like having family Christmas, and that's how it was. I was like walking through the city streets, homeless, broken, and I'm seeing all these families in the windows. I'm seeing all these families in the windows, and they having all these great times. They having like all these great Christmas parties and stuff like that. And I'm just broken. It was just like, man, I need to get my life together. These people are so happy. They having so much joy. And so I'm in the laundromat on a boulevard one night. And what happens is they used to stay open 24 hours. So I'm in there trying to stay warm. It's about 2, 3 a.m. And this girl comes in and she says, hey, she says, I just want to let you know that the United Way is giving free rooms at the Motel 6 for homeless people. She said, if you go to this church in the morning, you could sign up and they might give you a room. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And I never seen that girl again. She disappeared. I don't know if she was an angel or what. But so what I did was in the morning, I walked to where she told me to go. And I got the voucher and they gave me a free room at the Motel 6. So I went there and I had my own room. I stayed by myself and it was the most miserable month and a half of my life. I mean, like I'm just sitting in there with no friends, no money, no phone, eating these dry pretzels they give you at the food pantry. And I was just broken. And so what I'm doing is I'm getting to they say rock bottom. I call it a frozen bottom. So whenever I was there, every day they used to have, like at the end of every day, you can go to Ministry on the Margin and have a dinner. They'll have food and then they'll taxi cab you back to the hotel because it was so cold. So I signed up for Medicaid and I got Medicaid. And so I called the treatment centers and I called New Freedom Center and Heartview. And New Freedom Center, in a couple of weeks, they called back, left a message for me to call them. So I called them back and they said, if you get here Monday morning, we'll do an eval and see if we'll take you. And I was like, they're going to take me. And so that was a Thursday. So that day is the last time I ever did drugs or alcohol. I smoked some blue meth. I drank some Fireball and some Steel Reserve beer. And I stood up all weekend and I was miserable. And that Monday morning, I walked with a black garbage bag across State Street to the Motel 6. And from the Motel 6 to New Freedom Center. And when I walked in there, that man said, so why should we take you here at New Freedom Center? And I looked like E. Honda off Street Fighter. I mean, I was flailing out. I couldn't stop moving. I was crying. It was the first time in my life that I asked somebody, I said, I need help. You know, I really need help. And I was crying. And so they accepted me. And so they gave me a bed. And I took all my stuff out of my garbage bag and folded it and put it in the drawers. And I went to sleep for like a whole day. And then when I woke up, they took me to my first recovery meeting. And it's called Shoulder to Shoulder. It's on Tuesday nights at the Bismarck Community Church. It's a speaker meeting. And I seen a bunch of people there and they looked great. They had like a glow to them. They was all dressed up. They looked nice. And I was like, man, I want to look nice again. You know, I don't want to be like a bum. And so I started going to a lot of meetings, like 14 meetings a week. And I even stopped smoking cigarettes. I smoked my last cigarette over 4 years ago on their back porch. And so when you get there at the sober living, I mean, I went to treatment for 30 days and then I found out about Hope Manor Sober Living. And so when I left treatment, I went to Hope Manor Sober Living Men's House. And when you get there, you got to get a job, you got to get a sponsor, and you got to get a home group. A home group is a meeting that you go to every week that you don't miss and that you have a commitment at. And so that's what I did. I got a job the second day. I hadn't had a job in about a year and a half. That wasn't normal for me. So I got a job and then you just got to follow the program. It's just a program that it works. They have a 80 to 90% success rate if you stay there for 6 months or more. Mm-hmm. And so most of the people that I was at that sober living house with, most of them are still sober. They own their own businesses now. People get married, having families. You know, it really works. And so that's what I did. I stood there for 6 months, and I started going to men's retreats. I started making friendships with people that are sober. I started volunteering in the community, started going to a local church, started going to sweats with my new Native friends that I made. And I started just trying different stuff, meditating, going to therapy, working on doing inventory on myself mentally, emotionally, and physically. So I pretty much started from nothing and started building myself up. But the thing is, I had so many problems that for a year and a half, I would get mail and I wouldn't even open it. I would just throw it in a duffel bag. So eventually I had to sit down and open all this mail up that I didn't care about anymore. And I had to start caring. Like, okay, I got court dates that I didn't know about. I got child supports that I didn't know about. I got all this different stuff. And it's like so much stuff that it's hard for somebody to start to try to figure that out and stay sober, you know, because you're so used to, soon as stuff starts to get stressful, you want to go drink or you want to go start using drugs. And so that's what the sober living helps, because what it does is it gives you an opportunity to be in a safe environment while you start trying to figure out these problems. And you got people that's there with you to give you advice and suggestions. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that I really, really was thankful for, that I got the opportunity to go to that sober living. So once I got out of there, I just kept doing the same routine that I did when I was there. I would wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, I pray, I meditate, and I make my bed. And then I would start sending people messages in the morning to let them to get out of self and do something positive for somebody else. And so that's how I've been starting my days for the last 4.5 years. And that's what was just taught to me. And so I kind of took the blueprint and just found my own rhythm with it. And so I did that. Even when I didn't have a vehicle, when I first got out of sober living, I had a bicycle. I would still drive around town and go to all the different meetings that I went to in this sober living facility. And I never stopped. And for the first probably 2 years, I didn't do anything except sobriety stuff. I only went to meetings. I didn't hang out in places. I just went to like retreats and stuff like that. It took to about 2 years before I kind of like felt safe enough to go to like any kind of event that wasn't a sobriety event. Mm-hmm. And so that was just my experience with it, because I don't recommend people doing anything else besides sobriety stuff until they're strong in their recovery, like at least 1 year sober, or, you know, once they get through the steps, and then they're free and they can go anywhere a free man can go. But I never did go back to New Orleans, where I'm from, until this past Thanksgiving. One thing that I made was a goal for myself. I never met my dad before, so I connected with his family, which is my family, and I spent Thanksgiving with them and met everybody. And I read a letter at his grave for 4 days. Without sobriety, I wouldn't be able to do that. So that's one thing that I was able to do. That's the only time I've ever been back to New Orleans since I've been sober. It's just, I found my rhythm here and I found my purpose here. So this is where I feel comfortable at, and life's going pretty good. So today I still go to a lot of meetings. I still speak a lot. On Thursday nights, we volunteer, me and my brother Steve. He owns Resurrection Tattoo. We got sober together, and this guy named Bart. We go on Thursday nights to the Burley Morton County Detention Center, and we bring a meeting in there, but we kind of just go speak to the inmates and let them know that there is opportunities for them when they get out, that they don't have to keep going back to their old ways. Um, and it feels great just to be able to. I got a question. Do you get to see your child or your children? Well, this is my child right here. Say what's up, August. What's up? Yeah. So yes, I do get to see my children. My son's with me pretty much every day. I do have a daughter that's 17. I hadn't seen her in 5 years. And so I got to go make amends to her last year and made amends to her, got to spend time with her. I flew out here and I got to, make amends. But sometimes just because you make amends with people doesn't mean that it makes up for the lost time. So, but if you do stay sober, you will have your kids in your life eventually. Then that's one thing I found. It took me almost 2 years to get my son back in my life, and God put him in my life. It was just a thing of praying and staying on the right path, and by doing that, things start to manifest in your life that they'll go in the right direction. If you in your heart, in your heart, your Creator knows if you're trying to live right and do right. And so, yep, to answer your question, I have my son with me every day.
That's awesome.
Yep. So that's definitely a blessing and prayers answered as far as that. But do you have any questions?
So when I'm looking down, I'm always taking notes because I'm like, man, I know I'm going to have a question at the end, or you know what I mean? So
right.
Something that I did make a note of, and maybe for our viewers who aren't as knowledgeable, but you talked about doing blue meth. What is that?
It was, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was meth and it was blue.
Okay. Because I'm like,
maybe it had food coloring in it. I don't know.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like a different, like.
I don't know. I don't. It's still the devil. Whatever makes it up. I don't know. Yeah. I just remember when I think about the last time that I got high or did drugs, I vividly see the picture of what I did, and I remember it, and I never want to do it again.
Yeah, Ivana said it's dye, and then Jenna said like pink crank or crank. Yeah, crank. See, I learned things, on here too with all of my guests that have come and joined the show so far. Like I've always learned something new, and I don't ever claim to know it all because I don't, but
none of us do. We just all have our own experience.
Right. I'm trying to think here. You talk about having that time frame, or that, like your first 2 years you only did sobriety events. That's what you were comfortable with. And I noticed, when I've noticed a lot in my relationships and with work and all of that, with family, friends, clients that are, they're working on sobriety, and that one thing always seems to be like the biggest factor is jumping from an old relationship to another one, just like constantly like jumping to a different relationship. And so I've talked about that, with some of my, people, some of my clients, some of my friends, some of my relatives, that it's important just to focus on yourself. And so just, can you speak on that just a little bit more? Like why maybe it's so important to just focus on yourself?
So one of the two things they say that will make you relapse or take you out of the game is romance and finance. So, and they also say that the number one offender for an alcoholic or an addict is resentment, like dwelling on like something that happened to you at some point in your life. But I also like to say number two is loneliness. So most of our lives, we always want to be like comfort and look into a human being for something. And that's one thing I had to find out being alone. Like, I'm very thankful that I was homeless and that I was away from everybody that I knew. And I was to that broken point where I was just alone. Because when I built my new life, I built it with people around me, but I kind of built it with my creator. You know, like the person, like most people, they get into relationships with people and they make that person their God. They make that person their higher power because they depend on it. Like, I need you to tell me every day that you love me and I need to love you and I need you to do this. And that's what's going to make me feel whole throughout the day. And in my past, I've been in toxic relationships where I love somebody like they was God, you know, and what I found is that I've seen a lot of people that early in sobriety get in relationships and only a couple of things can happen. One, they're going to hurt your feelings so bad that you're going to use. Two, you're going to stay sober. They're going to stay sober. Then they're going to use, and then you're going to use with them because you love them. You know, and you're going to go right back to your old ways. But also I found in my new life is that the type of women that and the type of relationship or women that catch my attention now are way different from the ones that when I was using and drinking, you know, and it's a whole nother, you know, it's a whole nother atmosphere. But even after 2 years sober, I tried the relationship and it was cool, but it didn't work out. And I was smart enough to see that before it got to the point where I had to relapse or I had to go to jail for something stupid, you know? And so some people do get sober and go back to their families, like husband and wives and kids and stuff like that. My experience isn't like that. My whole life, I had toxic relationships, you know, like I never had that get married. You know, I was always like one night stand, you know, move in with a stripper, crazy stuff like that. But in recovery, it is good to be able to focus on yourself. But at the same time, we're human beings, so you want to have interaction with people. And so having interaction with people is good, but you just can't make it where that person is your happiness. You know, that's just my experience. Like, I spend time with people and then go back to my routine, you know, and that's just what I had to do. I had to realize that I was a very emotional, uncontrollably emotional person before I got sober. Like, I get a phone call, I'm driving across the state to come kick your door in to go to jail, you know, and you can't let people push your buttons like that, you know. And so I can say that today, my experience is that I don't get all emotional like I was before, you know. I kind of like, I got to focus, and I just say that, you know, some people say you should wait a whole year before you date or have sex or whatever you're going to do, but everybody's experience is different, you know. I waited 2 years before I tried a relationship. I didn't wait a year before I had sex, but I waited 2 years before I tried a relationship. And I know that relationship wasn't gonna work. And so I made a move. Some people, that's what it is. They get so comfortable because they just want somebody, and the red flags of it not gonna work, and they still stick to it, you know, and then it just gets worse and worse, and then somebody gets hit with a frying pan or something, you know, it just gets crazy. Yeah. So that toxic relationship. So not everybody is meant to be together forever. You know, sometimes your creator puts people in your life for a certain amount of time. And once that time's up, you're supposed to keep moving. You know, you're supposed to go your way and they're supposed to go their way. So I do recommend that you focus on yourself and figure out who you are, you know, because if you was high and drunk most of your life, you probably don't even know who you are, you know? And so that's one thing about me. Like, I never knew that I was good at radio. I never knew that I was good at interviewing people. I never knew that I was good at doing camera and different things that I do now that I'm sober. That's all things that I found within myself, that the creator and my God had gave me gifts that I would have never even tried to search out if I wouldn't have, like, you know, did some soul searching on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that answers your questions,
Yeah.
but that's my experience. I see a couple questions. It says, do you have any health issues from your use that you are still dealing with? Yes. So the main thing, that I used to take so much drugs and so much ecstasy that I burnt up a lot of the receptors in my brain that make happy chemicals. You know, I used it all up. So I suffer from severe PTSD and depression. So the one thing I had to do was I had to go to therapists. I had to go to doctors. I take depression meds. I take non-narcotic anxiety meds. You know, I had to go through different things. And then when you start smoking cigarettes when you're 9 years old, and you try to quit smoking when you're 30 something years old, that's a different thing, because now your brain starts to, you know, you've been putting drugs and nicotine in your brain for so. I'm not a professional, but I just know that I haven't smoked a cigarette in over 4.5 years, and that's a miracle. And so, as far as, I used to think that I had like cancer and all kind of crazy things going with me, but my alcoholic and addict mind used to lie to me. So I used to use and drink because I thought I was dying, and nothing was really wrong with me. It was, you know, and so one thing I did do when I first got sober, I went and did like full physicals of my whole body and made sure that I wasn't like dying, because I thought I was dying for years, and I wasn't. I was fine. Also, it says, thank you for sharing. I have children that use. I'd appreciate you sharing your experiences. You appreciate it. I'm not from there, but the environment of the Motel 6 is bad.
I know. When you said Motel 6, I was like, okay. But it's true. I mean,
I'm just telling you, that's just my experience. Yeah. That's where I got experience there. That's where I left from and went across State Street, and I've been sober ever since. Yeah. So that's my experience with it. But one thing I can say, over time, your body does heal and your mind heals, but it does take time. It takes, for all those years that you treated your body like trash and your mind, it takes time for it to heal, but it will heal. You know?
That's a good point. If I can piggyback off of that, at what point, like time frame from the day that you got sober to how I guess how long did it take you to feel like, okay, I'm thinking a little bit clearer, and to where then you're like, all right, I feel like my mind is clear enough to really like absorb what I'm learning and put it to use. Like, what kind of time frame was that for you? No, it's different for
right. So when I first did the steps, probably at about 6 months sober, I started to feel spiritual stuff like inside. I started to have feelings and stuff like that. But at about 2 years sober, after 2 years sober, I started to feel like, I just started to feel a lot better. You know, the first year, every day sober is great, but after a couple months of being sober, about 6 months working the steps and my body detoxing and stuff like that, I started to feel real good, because living in the sober living house, and I didn't have a license or a vehicle. I used to ride bicycle everywhere. So quitting smoking and detoxing and riding bicycle everywhere, it kind of like it helped me out. Like I just kind of like started to feel like I was like I was in high school again. You know, I was a teenager again. I had all this energy, and I felt great. And then, but the paranoia and the anxiety, I didn't really start to feel that kind of like get better to like after at least 2 years.
Okay.
Because once once you already paranoid from stuff that you've been through in your life and you start using methamphetamine, it's even worse. You know, it's to the 10th power. So, and so meditating and trying different things. Like I always say, I go to church with my church friends, I go to sweats with my native friends, and I go to yoga and meditation with my weirdo friends. And trying and going to therapy, doing I forgot MDMR, whatever they call it, where you move your eyes fast. Everything that's available to me to try to fix how broken and messed up I was, I'm all for it. As long as it's gonna help me and not put me back in jail. So that's what I tried. I tried everything. For a while, I did yoga and Tai Chi every morning when I woke up. That was my way of meditating, like meditating in motion. I did that for about the first year, and then in riding bicycle, exercise. I don't get to the gym as much as I did because life does speed up on you, but I try to go at least 2 or 3 times a week. Exercise always feels great. Laughing, nature, you know, just fellowship. You know, there's a bunch of different things that go on in the community. And I try, you know, on Wednesday nights, we go to Eagles Park during the summer, and it's just a bunch of sober people getting together around a campfire. And it just feels good to be able to talk, you know, because I was at a point in my life where I didn't have nobody to talk to at all. I was just alone. Mm-hmm. And I just needed somebody to talk to, you know, and now I've got thousands of people that I can talk to, you know, and it feels good just to be able to know people and not feel isolated and all by yourself. And that's one of the best feelings in the world, you know, to be able to connect with people, and, you know, but you got to be able to connect with people and to a certain extent. From what we was talking about earlier, you can't connect to a person so much that you fall all the way off. Right. You got to connect and then disconnect.
Yeah. And that's something that, you know, I feel like I see that a lot, you know, with, in fact, I have somebody that's, you know, even close to me and my family that, you know, we're watching this cycle, and it's kind of like, man, you know, it's so toxic, and it affects that person in the way where they're like being pushed away from their family even, or, you know, and it might not even be coming from, you know, that individual, but the significant other of that individual or something like that is like causing a lot of issues. And it's just, man, how, I mean, I get that you want your somebody, you know, and you want somebody to love and, you know, be there for you, but like this type is not, it's not okay. It's causing a lot more damage than it is doing good for you, you know? And it's just kind of, man, how do you get somebody to kind of open their eyes and realize that? And, you know, it's not really in our control as much as, like, you know, we wish that we could help fix, you know, certain issues. It really has to be up to that individual to make that decision, you know, and have that strength. And so those are usually the kind of, you know, conversations that I have with them in regards to stuff like that. But I see that Bernita had a question too. She says, where did it go? Have you and your partners tried to reach out to those that use at Motel 6, or is that not safe enough?
Well, I don't go there. But there's enough sobriety in the community and meetings, and I have a radio show on Friday night, Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. And people know there's a lot of recovery in the community. So if people want to get some recovery in their life, there's so much going on in Bismarck, Mandan, Bismarck, or in the state of North Dakota, that people know where to go. You know, they know now where they can go to get some recovery. It's not like they got to go find it. They know. And so, and I've been doing this for a little while now. So people that is not living right, they try to stay away from people like me, you know? And so but the thing about it is that people got to get to that point. You can go knock on somebody's hotel room and say, hey, I'm here to help you. You need to get your life together. And they're not going to open the door unless they really, really want it, and to that broken spot. And if they at that broken spot, they're going to leave the Motel 6 and they're going to go to where we at. And so it's not hard. Those people that's stuck on that level of life, it's not hard to find them. You know, they probably leave the Motel 6 in the morning, be at the soup kitchen if they're trying to eat. You know, they might not even be trying to eat. And so you know, they know there's so many resources in the community today that if somebody really, really wants some recovery or wants to try a new life, it's not hard to find at all. We got places all over the state that we're all connected, you know, and so if somebody really reaches out to anybody, you know, I got people in Minot, I got the girls in Minot that's doing recovery. They got Firm Foundations in Jamestown. We all could talk to each other on a daily basis. And as soon as somebody reaches out, if it's a guy that's around here, they'll send me their information and we'll reach out to them. Or if it's a girl that's in their area, I'll send them the information. So we all kind of like, it's a network of people that's got sober, that have the blessing of sobriety, and we're here to help whoever wants help, you know. But they gotta want it though. We're not gonna go tackle them and tie them up and throw them in the back of the van and bring them to treatment. But if they want it, the opportunity is here, and we're making it loud enough that people can hear it, you know?
Yeah. And that's another thing, like, I appreciate, you know, your radio show, Sober Talk. You said it's Fridays at what time?
Fridays at 8 p.m. It's a local station, 100.7 FM in the Bismarck, Mandan area. Goes 50 miles. Or you can watch it from anywhere on the planet on Facebook. It's called Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. I do live feed. I've probably done like 100 shows, most Friday nights. You know, I might miss a Friday here and there if I'm on vacation or something, but most Friday nights, that's where we at. Tomorrow, no, what's today?
Monday.
Well, this Friday, I've got Carolyn S. from Newtown. She'll be on there with 11 months of sobriety telling her story. And that's it. It's just, you know, you can come tell your story. And if somebody can connect with your story and they want to change, they reach out, you know. And so if I can't help you, I know some people that can.
Yep. So I have a question. So right now I'm the tribal opiate response outreach specialist with Standing Rock. Before that, okay. I was support services director with MHA recovery team for about 5 years. And so transitioning, you know, from MHA to Standing Rock, there's a big difference, because MHA has a lot of resources, you know, financially, you know, and now moving back home to Standing Rock, where I was like born and raised, it's different. You know, we don't have the same type of financial resources that maybe some other tribes do. And, you know, what we're really trying to do is find individuals, both men and women. Right now, we're really looking for a lot of men that would be willing to come into the communities and just kind of help bring other men together. You know, I had an elder of mine that I was talking to one time, and she was telling me that that it's before it used to be men. The men would leave the home. The men, you know, they wouldn't come back. They were the ones that were gone and leaving the women and children and grandmas at home. And what she shared with me now is that it's the women, it's the moms. The moms are leaving the homes, and the dads and the grandmas, the unchis, are the ones that are having to care for, you know, the kids. And so there's a lot going on. But in particular, you know, with myself and my coworkers, you know, we are looking for strong, sober men who would be willing to come and, you know, either do anything really, you know, have some groups or do some speaker meetings or something, you know, in our communities, because we don't have the same type of access in person anyways than that some other, you know, tribes do, or even just Bismarck Mandan people, you know. And so that's a big part of the reason why I started this recovery roundtable. I wanted to make sure that I was reaching the people that aren't close to town, you know, or they don't have means to get to here and there and everywhere. So that was my mission here, you know, starting this. So
do they have any kind of recovery meeting at all in Standing Rock?
So I know that in McLaughlin on the South Dakota side, there is one that a lady holds. She's been doing it for a long time. She said that she'll still set up even if nobody shows. She's there every day. I don't remember. I'll have to get back to everybody on like the day and time. But it's at one of the churches she holds meetings. And then in Fort Yates, they used to hold meetings at one of the churches there, but then they changed the time to an earlier time. And that was something that one of my elderly told me that was a hard change, because they felt that they didn't want people seeing them walking over to their meetings at 3 o'clock during the day or at noon. Everybody's out in town, you know what I mean? And they preferred that it be later in the evening, but they didn't have any control over that meeting time, you know? So we do, like with our office, we do have like a Families Anonymous, which it's like Al-Anon, once a month on the South Dakota side. And then I'm still been trying to start this one up on the North Dakota side in Fort Yates, but it's hard to like get that word out, you know, and but it, you know, and it makes it even harder because it's supposed to be anonymous, and it's like, well, how are you supposed to attract, you know, people to come in and be a part and learn, and, you know, if it has to be anonymous. So that's something that we're kind of struggling with a little bit, and just getting that word out, like, hey, we want to get these things started and help, you know. So it would be awesome to have other, especially the men. I feel like we have a lot of women that come to the table that are available to help with these things, but we're looking for more men at this point in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you welcome to reach out to me anytime that if I could be of assistance, you know, I'm willing. You know, even if you want to like do some kind of like lemonade stand and I shoot a episode from there, you know.
I know. I mean, my daughter was like, what if you did a live recovery roundtable, just, you know, on the street? And I was like, oh my God, you know, I've seen it done like on YouTube, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm not at that point yet. Like, I'm not that comfortable, because you just, it's hard. Like nowadays, I just feel like you don't know what somebody's
do it at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night
by myself in the dark alley. Just kidding.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, I mean, that would be really awesome to get some started, and, you know, you bring your group of guys. I mean, I know some people that comment on here, and I've seen them in pictures with you, and I'm like, I know that guy, you know what I mean? And I'm so,
yeah, I've had a lot of people from Standing Rock on my show.
Yeah.
So
it makes me happy.
I can, if you give me a game plan, yeah, I can hit them up. I know where they sleep at.
All right. I'm gonna remember that then. But yeah, it makes me so happy just to see, all of these people, a lot of people that I've seen in different stages of their life, and now, to what their life is like now, like it's amazing. And I'm grateful that they're alive, and living a good life now.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
And another thing, and this is just my experience, like you was talking about, I meet a lot of people, like let's say from Standing Rock or rural reservation areas that come here, get sober, and then move back, and then sometimes it don't work out in the best favor of some people, and so I've seen a lot of people though that stayed here and continued the same routine they learned, and their lives get better. So that's one thing that I've noticed too, because I've had a lot of people that I mentored, and they were like, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving back," and I was like, "I can't tell you what to do, but I don't recommend it, not yet."
Yeah.
And so usually 9 times out of 10, when they move back, you don't really hear from them that much anymore, and
It's the same.
it's kind of like,
it's nothing different from when they left, because what I've noticed is that a lot of times families, they're like, so and so needs treatment, so and so, they need this, they need that, you need to send them off, da 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 da. And it's like, okay, so what's going to be the plan when they come back? Once we get to that point and we start talking about that, what's the long-term plan here? When they come back home, are they going to be coming into the same environment, with mom or auntie, uncle, or whoever else is in that home, brother, sister, and they're still using, and they're going to come back into that same environment? Or what's the plan? And usually it's like, well, they're going to come home and then we're all going to get better. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. You can't bring somebody fresh out of their program back into the same environment, especially if there's other people still using in the home. And so I encourage sober living. I know that it's made a huge impact, with all of our MHA members. That was something that was, totally fully supported by our chairman, and they made it happen, and
shout out to Good Roads and all the MHA sober lodges. I know all those guys very well, but there's a lot of other sober living facilities that's opened up in the Bismarck area that will take Standing Rock people. So you got Hope Manor, you got Blessed Builders, you got Tied for Second Sober Living. The owner, Josh Olson of New Freedom Center, he's opened up, I think, like 4 houses. Yeah. So those houses do take anybody. You don't have to be from a certain tribe or anything like that. And then I think there's Blake's house. So there's different houses and stuff that's available that's opening up to people, which is, and I just like to put that knowledge out there, because some people think that, they don't have a place to go, or they're not going to be accepted, and some guys find out that they can be accepted and they're sober right now, probably watching this video.
Hopefully.
So, but I get what you're saying though. It would be real nice if they had like a sober house in Fort Yates, or somewhere,
someday, one of these, it's going to get there. It's going to get there eventually, but definitely like letting the people know that there's other resources, there's other things here, in town. When we say in town, in Bismarck, Mandan, there's sober livings here. There's so many different programs here, and one thing that I have to mention, and I hope that people hear this, is that if let's say Standing Rock, for example, if you're needing services, you can always contact myself, but you would need to contact the treatment program and start that process there, and then work on getting into a program. From there, we can help with the transition or continuum of care to.
So Standing Rock does have a treatment program?
Yes, and right now they're only serving outpatient, but we do have the ability to send people to
send them somewhere else.
If whatever, based on the evaluations recommendations, right? And so we have that ability to do that. And then, you know, a lot of times people aren't insurance, and so we'll help people get on insurance. If, you know, one of the places doesn't take Medicaid, there's vouchers, you know, that we can get to pay for treatment, to pay for sober living, to help with all of these programs. But I don't think people really know that yet. There's a lot that we can do. But I mean, you just have to be willing, you know. And I know sometimes people fear being away from home and
Right.
program somewhere else. And I know just in my experience, that's been one of the comments is like, I don't want to be too far away from home, you know. And it's like, you got to kind of trust the process. Like, don't worry, we're going to take care of you. You know, we're going to be there. We're going to be beside, you know, not physically beside you, but we're going to be beside you and walking you through this, and, you know, just being your support system. And so, but I know that's one of the biggest things where I hear people say, like, I just don't want to be far away from home. But sometimes that might be the best,
Right.
you know.
So I'm gonna let everybody know, if they from Standing Rock and they want to get sober, or they want to find some info out for their niece or nephew, whoever, they're gonna contact you.
They're gonna contact me, or they can contact the treatment center, you know, directly. And
Oh, you about to start getting 50 calls a day.
That's okay. That's what we want. We want to help people, you know. So if you are headed south on Highway 24, right outside of Fort Yates, on the right-hand side, you're going to see a sign that says Waiokie Oti. That is the treatment program there. So it's right outside of Fort Yates. It's just, I don't even know what, a mile, not even a mile maybe. That's where the program is. And so, you know, let us know. I mean, there's a limited amount of things that I can do, just because I'm focused on coordinating some other programs, but I can always get up with, you know, whoever.
Now, are you guys able to send someone from Standing Rock to the PRC in Partial?
Yes, a lot of Standing Rock members have been to PRC, and I totally support that, because I feel like they have a really good program, you know.
Shout out to Ed. I see my brother Ed from the PRC's watching. What's up, Ed?
Hey, Ed.
That's the best sober fisherman in the whole wide world right there.
Ed's a good guy. Hey, Ed. I'm glad you're watching. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Shout out to Big Man.
Hey, Big Man. I see you popped on.
But yeah, as far as you was talking about, I think we should try to get like something together, because we got so many of us that's doing this sober life now and this new thing, that we can put together some kind of function to have down there in Fort Yates or somewhere in Standing Rock. I don't know exactly what, but something. Yeah. And there's enough great minds that can get together and put together something.
Yeah, we'll have to set up a date and maybe talk about it, and just, well, not maybe talk about it, let's talk about it, and something going. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, you got any other questions for me?
I don't have any other questions. I mean, maybe down the road I probably will, you know, but I always say, like, at the end of my shows, or like the next day, and I'd be like, oh man, I should have asked that. Oh, I forgot, you know, whatever. Yeah. So if you get a message.
Well, you got my number.
But yeah, let's get together. Let's do that. Let's, you know, make something happen and bring everybody together. That'd be awesome.
Roger that.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody's listening on Friday nights, 8 p.m., you can watch it on Facebook at Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun, or you can listen to it on a local station. It's 100.7 FM. It goes 50 miles around Mandan and Bismarck. KLBE, the club, Bismarck. But if anybody needs any questions for me or any assistance in the local area, we have a lot of resources. You can reach out to me on Facebook on the page, or Brothers Brandon on my personal page. We're here to help. And if we can help in any kind of way, feel free to reach out. But I thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Yes, and I always close out by saying, you know, a big thank you. We're very grateful to have you from my lodge to your lodge. Everybody have a good night. And in regards to Standing Rock Treatment Center, I will put more information in the comments, so you'll know where to call, you'll know where to go. And yeah, so it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much, Brendan, and I'll see you again.
All right. One love.
Yo.